Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar on how to pitch your game in the best possible way. I'm Natasha, I work for Flanders DC, and next to me is Bruno Urbain, who is founder and owner of Fishing Cactus, one of the biggest game studios in Belgium. You all know him, don't you? He's been shipping around more than 50 games on different platforms and with very different business models. So we find him the best possible guy to explain you the secrets on how to make the perfect game pitch. We'll be answering a few questions today, the key ingredients of a good pitch, how to build a good pitch deck, and also how to set up a meeting with your pitch and your possible investor. So, Bruno, let's go. Let's do this.
Okay, let's go. I'm going to use that remote controller just to access the presentation, and just to keep my notes, I'm going to use my phone. So if I'm looking at it,
it's normal.
It's normal, right? All right. So prepare the fair pitching. So I'm going to dive into it. There is, like Natasha said, everything about preparing an event. It can be Gamescom, but to be honest, it can be any other event that you are attending with your pitch. During the event, what you have to do, what you don't have to do, and basically the tracking that you are going to do after the Gamescom. Yeah. So how to follow up with the publishers or the press, whatever. So definitely, there's different topics that you can talk about whenever you are going to the Gamescom or to an event. You can do some IP pitching, you can do some client prospection, work for hire, or things like that. If your game is out, you are trying to get awareness and press, and you are, or maybe you are looking for partnerships, like
it's
technology.
It's not all just about asking for money.
Exactly. The thing here, I'm even going to restrain this to IP pitching because there's definitely a lot of things to say about all those topics. I'm going to focus on IP pitching. I guess there is something about press tomorrow?
Yes, tomorrow we'll be hosting the webinar specifically on press, so we can leave most of the details out for now. Just sign in tomorrow to have everything press related.
Okay, so there are some slides here in the presentation about press. Feel free to check them out. I'm going to probably skip them just to make the webinar a bit shorter. Okay. All right, let's dive into it. So about the prep, the Gamescom. So this one is about your game is out, and definitely you are going to organize a press tour. So it's probably for tomorrow on how to deal with a PR agency and how to get press interest into your game. So I'm not going to dive into this. The next one is you have an IP. So you have a game that you want to pitch to different publishers, and your goal is to maximize the numbers of meetings that you want to have. The idea first is to create a priority list of all those publishers that you want to meet, and to leave some room for opportunistic meeting. Most of the time at the Gamescom, it happens that a lot of people run late because there are so many meetings that they are basically running late at the meetings. They have 10 minutes late, so you have to leave some room.
Leave some buffer
exactly.
in your schedule.
You need to contact the people you want to work and to meet several times if they are not replying, because obviously you want to have those meetings happening.
But you focus on those specific priority contacts.
Yes, that what I'm going to say is that it's always better to have 3 meaningful meetings than 10 that are basically wasting your time. We're talking a little bit before the webinar here that sometimes you have to learn through those meetings to understand who's meaningful, who's not, to filter them, to learn how to filter them. But there's a couple of rules and tips that I'm going to share in order to do that a little bit more later in the presentation. So what's interesting before the show is that if you have a game to pitch and you have already content for it, it's already good to get in touch with those publishers beforehand and presenting the pitch. If you have GIFs, if you have trailers or videos, it's really the right moment in order to send them something that will get them excited. I know that, for instance, Devolver or Raw Fury are looking at GIFs in order to filter the games that they want to see at the Gamescom. So that's very important to have something to show if you have something to show. If you don't have something to show, of course, you just do a traditional.
You can send that along already before the actual meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes, exactly. But keep it short. A GIF, 5 seconds, trailer, 30 seconds, something to get them excited. You don't need to go through, I don't know, 15 minutes demo or 15 minutes demo video in order to
just getting the excitement of the person to book the meeting with you.
And for them, you want to filter them to have a prior list, and that's basically what they are doing too. So they want to see, they want to check the games that they want to have meetings with the developers and to make sure that the game is relevant for them. So prepare. There is one very important aspect to an event is basically setting up the meetings, right? And in order to do that, you have different platforms, matchmaking platforms, just like this one. And this one can be one, right? And but yeah, that's there's definitely a way to do that. It's to scout on those matchmaking platforms. At the Gamescom, there is one called Meet to Match. There is one done by the Gamescom, but it's less used. The issue with the Gamescom one is that it's very big, so you get a lot of different people, art outsourcing companies, audio companies, localization company, ads,
spamming you,
spamming you with meetings. So you need to scout and filter that. So that's very important. You need to focus on the publishers. If you're looking for publishers or distributors, you need to focus on those who resonate with your game. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the do your own research a bit later, but the idea is to understand what they're looking for and how your game is basically matching what they're looking for. If you are making some sort of very independent game, it will resonate more with independent publishers like Devolver, Raw Fury, but there are tons of them. If you are making, I don't know, a AAA RTS, it's mostly for Sega, who's very well known into the RTS scene, or a couple of others in that way. So that's very important to create that. And once you have sorted those publishers, you need to set your prior list and to go through it and try to get meetings with them. In order to do so, you need to create an individual email. Makes sense, right? And to focus on getting those meetings with the top list. And so if you need to spend maybe 2 hours in order to get those 3 on the top of the list, maybe a couple of minutes in order to get those at the bottom of the list, that's exactly what you need to do. So in terms of creating that individual email, making sure that the important elements of your game which resonate with them is highlighted and stuff like that.
So there's a lot of time spent in prepping for the meetings.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's all about that. When you have the meetings, that's already secured, and you can always say things during the meeting. You have 30 minutes, 1 hour for the meeting, so you can do a lot of things, see how they react. But when you have an email, you basically are sending this out of the blue. You don't know what they are expecting, and so you need to spend a lot of time.
When should you start contacting people for a show?
For instance, for the Gamescom, we are starting right now, and for Fishing Cactus, for instance, but it's because we have already contacts. So for those who are just starting out, it should happen a little bit before, even then, especially if they have a concept to pitch and they want to just introduce themselves and to see if if the publisher is attending and so on and so on.
So let's say for Gamescom, like May, June, prepping for first meetings would be a good time.
June is really a good moment. Yes, exactly. So yeah, when contacting them, what I said is to really have the email that is tailored made for them, and that the game is relevant for them. It could be for press too, because the press, one journalist is playing, I don't know, that kind of very specific game, and you want to actually talk to him, or a publisher that basically likes or published a game that is very similar to you. When it comes to publishing, beware, it's a trap. So sometimes if a publisher published this type of game, doesn't mean that they will be interested in your game. Why? Because there are some very common traps or mistakes that we can fall into them in the days back in the days, and it's basically, it can happen because there's a commercial failure. So you just need to make sure that if they have published that type of game that resonates or very similar to yours, that it's not a commercial failure. Otherwise, they're going. Yeah, you need to check. You need to do your own research. You need to check if there's no self-competition, because sometimes they don't want to have an RTS if they are publishing already on RTS, because it's going to
taking revenue from the other game.
Exactly, they are going to take their own market share and not create a new one or taking some extended one. So you need to do your own research. There is a couple of examples into the presentation, so feel free to check it out. So when reaching out, you need to target people with decision power. So on those matchmaking portals, you have CEOs or producers looking for IPs. Search first for those type of guys. Then there is, I would say, some general business. There are acquisition manager, business developer, whatever name. Those are definitely at the bottom of the chain. So it's a good entry point if you don't have any contacts. But if you have contacts, try to get higher, because then you will basically, when you are going to do the post meeting tracking, it will be a little bit faster.
You skip some steps in between.
Exactly. And you don't know how the person that you talk to is going to report the game to a CRT. So if you have I would say the top of the food chain, it's a little bit better to convey your ideas and your pitch. Really, whenever making those preparation email, be concise. It needs to be short, especially if you are dealing with the CEOs or producers. They get tons of emails. On my side, I'm just a regular developer. I get something like 150 emails per day. So I need to go through them really fast. And you need to have the essentials. I will get back to the essentials, what essentials means for a pitch. And have clear targets in what basically you are looking for. So if you're looking for distribution, funding, maybe funding plus marketing, whatever, publishing, so make it clear in the email. It doesn't need to go into the details, but at least they know that if they can answer positively to your requests. So if you're looking for funding, but that publisher doesn't do funding, of course, it's not going to be a match.
It's not a match,
Whenever you're preparing things, you need to have a deck. A deck is basically a PowerPoint that can vary in size and in length, depending on what you are going to do. It will be sent out to publishers. It can be used as a support during meeting, or even before or after. So it will be used in different scenarios, I would say, and different situations. Should you have multiple decks? I just said it, so it's yes. So you need to have one. There is one that is basically sent out before or after the meeting, which is 20 to 25 pages, depending. A bit more, we come back to the issue of being concise and having too much to read and stuff like that. Don't worry, if they like the game, they will ask for more. They will read it and they will ask for more. So you don't have to have too much burden because you didn't send the whole, I don't know, game design Bible, whatever. That's definitely what you want to do. And there is one that really needs to be shorter for the event that you will have as support. Maybe it's going to be at the same time as the demo that you are playing, or at the same time as the video, or just after, or just before. It's just a support for mostly with visuals. You need to have those appealing visuals, screenshots, videos in those, because you are going to focus on this.
And then when you send along the PDF or the PowerPoint, it needs to be standalone, because it will be sent around within the company, and people won't have your explanation to go with it. So it needs to be very self-explanatory.
Exactly. So that's why it's much longer whenever you are sending it as standalone, because you don't want to leave too much blanks for people just to, I don't know, feel or convey ideas about your game. So that's the thing. You want also to have if it's a PowerPoint, for instance, you want it to be as easily customizable as possible, because definitely you will tweak it along the way. So I was talking about the essentials, but the essential is basically what you are going to have into your pitch deck, into your pitch that you are going to the meeting, what you are going to say during the meeting at the event, and probably you are going to have to say again the essentials after the meeting, because like I said, most of the time there is a decision chain, and the people need to be recalled about the essentials of the game. And basically the essential is your game pitch or some sort of tagline. So it's 2 sentences that are basically summarizing your concept. There's a lot of screenshots, and screenshots is a really wide topic about how to make those screenshots.
We'll maybe send along some documents or some links that might give some insight in how to make good screenshots and trailers.
Yes,
we'll send that along with the slides.
Yeah, there is a very interesting blog made by Derek Lieu, who make actually very good trailers for games, and is giving a lot of tips on how to make them good. For screenshot, I think Natasha also found some good ideas.
We'll send that to you.
Yeah, and so you have to then in that essential, you need to have that recap page. And that recap page is basically what are the target audience, target platform, release date, current status of the game. So is it in development? Is it in prototyping phase? Is it finished? That kind of thing. That's really what you need to have there. Some sort of game presentation, what we call one pager. It's a concept. So it's much more advanced than the game pitch, because it explains a little bit more in details the game mechanics and stuff like that. Then there is some explanation about the key features of your game, how unique it is compared to what exists on the market. That's from a publisher point of view, it might be the most important thing. Because that's what they're looking for. So if they have the visuals, they have the gameplay, then how it differentiates from what exists on the market. So that's probably 3 different elements that are the most important for them. If there is a match on those 3 elements, they are going to ask, what's the platform, what's the development, the timeline and stuff like that.
So these are the things you should try to give them firsthand.
Yes, definitely. And you need to do it your own sauce. So if you feel that your game is really strong on the tech side, maybe because you have such a very good AI or such good visual arts, feel free to also tweak the deck in that way in order to maximize your chances. So there is probably a bit of budget and timeline. You don't need to go into the details there. Just keep it short and concise. The gameplay, the story, the content a little bit. So like it's a very extended one. So 20-25 pages for this kind of content, right? So, but whenever you are at the event, it's probably more about the gameplay, uniqueness, and visuals, and that's pretty much it. So, let's say that you have a lot of meetings and one is happening, right? And
nice setting for the meeting.
Yeah, thank you. So the thing is to keep things short and simple. You will see that you will be very exhausted during the meeting. There's a lot of 31-hour meeting chaining up right after the other, but that's the same issue for the person who is in front of you or on the other side.
Especially Gamescom, long days, eh?
Exactly. So like I said, focus on content, visuals, gameplay, trailers, demos, a little bit of the essentials, but really on a broad way, so they get to know everything, a little bit of everything about your game, and that they have the key information whenever they leave. Remember that even if you are meeting the CEO, is going to see maybe, I don't know, 20-30 games during the show, is not going to sign any deal just on the table there.
It's getting a good feeling about your game.
Exactly. So basically what they're going to do is that the same as you, they're going to make a set prior list of the games that they liked, and they want to follow up on those games and see if the team is right, the budget is right, the timing is right. For instance, there is a very important element at publishers. It's what they have in what they call slots. And basically depending on the size of the publishers, they have different slots for games. So maybe they have 3 games per year. And if they have two games this year, they are only looking for 1. So maybe even if they saw 5 games that are very interesting for them, they are not only going to pick 1. Because that's part of the strategy. You need to you need to like I said, if you have a demo, you need to show the core gameplay of the game. And basically I usually advise to make two kind of phase. One is the tutorial phase, where you're explaining what's the core concept, some sort of tutorial, right? And then you have a more advanced one, which shows the wow moments, something that get people excited, basically, about your project. Provide the essential. I already said that. And talk about your strongest points. So if you're a young team just starting out, you're not going to say that you're a young team starting out. No. Maybe they are going to ask for it.
But you work hard and you're full of ambition. That's the way to name it.
Exactly. The thing is, if you have very good programmers, just focus on this. You need to focus on the strongest point, not really on the weakest point. And you need to plan for some QA. So if it's 30 minutes meeting, plan for 5 minutes Q&A, because there will be some. Even maybe you as a developer is going to ask for some question. Are you all the publishers working? What's the deal flow? What's the process of evaluation? Stuff like that. Yeah, this one is very interesting. It's the arousal pyramid. It's basically how you are getting excited, how publishers are going to be excited by the project. And like I said, you can have a pitch deck, which is basically a static document that you're going to present on a computer. You can have a video, you can have GIFs, you can have an hands-off demo or hands-on demo. And basically, as you are going at the top of the pyramid, if they like the game, the more likely they are going to follow up with you, right? So if you have an hands-on demo, they can try and they are excited about the game, definitely you are in a very good way on signing a deal with them. If other conditions are met, obviously. For a startup, for a company that is just starting out, having a concept or a static deck, trying to sell a static deck or concept at this stage will be very, very, very difficult, to be honest.
So it's a matter of timing when to start talking to people.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it's much more important to focus on making your small VSD, small vertical slice demo before talking to publisher, especially if you are a newcomer, because otherwise they are going to say, oh yeah, the concept is cool. Come back whenever you have a demo, because for them there is too much risk in going there.
I see.
So you need to plan for different situation. Definitely there are situations like here. You are on some sort of interview, but no access to the demo. You cannot show it. You have, of course, you need to plan to present the game alongside the demo, which is kind of difficult to be playing and explaining the game at the same time. If they are playing the game, make sure that you have a presentation that fits to it, because if they are playing, they are not focused 100% on what you are saying.
No, so no big text or figures.
Or try to see if there are places in the game where they can pause or they can stop playing, and basically can provide a little bit of an explanation of what they just experienced. That's the kind of thing to do. And if you don't have a lot of meetings, sometimes you can have some, I would say, some opportunistic rendezvous or meetings at the parties, and maybe you are going to show your game on a mobile phone. So just make sure that you have
it with you at all times.
Exactly, and you are prepared to do that in different circumstances. That's really the idea, and you need to practice. That's the thing.
Practice with colleagues, with co-developers.
Exactly. Before and once you are in there, you will see that there are some things that work really well in the way you are presenting the game, and you need to take this as a strength and basically empower it later on, and you will see that it will become a little bit easier to sell the game in a way, because you have that resonates with people and you can find the right flow. That's exactly just like pitching to an investor. Actually, you whenever you are doing it 10 times, at the 10th times, basically it gets better than in the first time.
So a lot of practice and preparation is key.
Exactly. Everything needs to be, in a way, as much as possible tailor-made. So for those high-profile publishers that you have, you need to have a custom pitch or a custom presentation while you are at the event, in order to emphasize things that resonates with their portfolio, with what they're doing as a publisher. Maybe that's the way that you want to work with a publisher, or maybe that's it's about the game, but it's really about building up a narrative that works with them.
Yeah.
That's really important. Money.
When to talk about money? That's an important question for money.
Yeah, that's a really important question because it's a sensitive question. You never know when it's the good time to do that. To be honest, do it. Yeah. Sometimes it's very difficult whenever you are starting as a newcomer in order to get to discuss money, but you need to be clear about what you're looking for. Are you looking for funding? In that case, how much and what kind of type? Is it a minimum guarantee? Is it some sort of investment in the company? Because maybe you are going to meet VCs, so that's also different talk. But that's maybe there are VCs in projects. They are interested in investing in projects, but that's a little bit different from a publisher point of view, because the goals for them are a bit different. The type of funding that you're looking for, so recoupable, minimum guarantee. So minimum guarantee is basically an advance that they are going to recoup on the first sales of the game, or is it an equity on the project? That's different ways of doing it. Are you looking for publishing? In that case, it means marketing plus funding, or just marketing. Are you looking for distribution only? So for instance, there's a very wide market for China, for Japan, and exotic markets like this. So what you're looking for, it's very important to set clear things whenever you are talking to partner. I'm looking for, I don't know, 50K euros minimum guarantee for you to distribute my game in China. That's the kind of way of you need to say that as abruptly as possible, but in a way it makes things clear for everyone.
I think you mentioned it in one of your slides. Don't forget that you are selling and they are buying.
Exactly.
You can put in some rules and regulations on how you want to work with them. It's important to know the balance between partners.
The thing here also is to understand, you need to be knowledgeable about the market. That's one of the issues that I see with the newcomers. Either they are asking for too much money, or they're asking for not enough money. If you have a publisher like Sega, or a very big one like Namco or Ubisoft, whatever, they're most of the time looking for project into the millions of euros, and they're not that interested into the 50K euro project. On the other side, indie publishers are not at ease under on more than 50K or something, or 250, and some of them are really smaller than that, so they don't even have funding, for instance. So you need to be knowledgeable about those, and how you get knowledgeable, you can see a lot of different articles about if they are funding, and they have in for instance, if you're looking at gameindustry.biz, they have some articles about those different.
You can find all the relevant info there.
You need to do your own research again about those publishers. So you need to talk about the money after the QA. So don't talk about money during the presentation. You don't need to focus about that. And if you see that there is some traction that is interesting to the project, you can do that at that moment. At the same time, you need to ask them how they work with developer. Sometimes Devolver or the guys like 11-bits have a very friendly family kind of approach in the way that they're working. So they don't have a lot of developers, they don't have a lot of IPs or projects they're working on at the same time. So it makes it very family-like. On the other side, very big companies have a more traditional chain of way of working, and you need to find if it fits with the way that you want to work, basically. That's a very important thing. You need to ask about the selection process, so the deal flow. Whenever you're going to send a pitch, how much time you can expect to have some sort of answer? Do they need some additional material in order to do the process? You will avoid losing time if you are not basically providing everything that they need. So that's
it's good for the follow-up afterwards, so you know when to touch back.
Exactly. And you need to make sure that that you know about the next steps. So if there are no next steps, maybe there is an NDA, maybe there is some sort of follow-up contracts or follow-up presentation with different people, different stakeholders. You need to be knowledgeable about that. Yeah, so that's for the press. I'm going to skip it. Same here. Okay, all right. Attitude. So it's more about how you need to behave and how to
Very important, because it's always a person that you're talking to.
Okay. Yes. That's exactly that. And you need to be convincing. To be honest, that's really if there's one key takeaway, it's to be convincing, believe in your product and team, because it's not just a one-man work. Well, maybe it can be, but
or women, some.
Or women, that's true. But most of the time there is a team behind that. So you need to be proud about their work and about showing what they have achieved, especially if you have a demo or trailer that shows the game. You want to have a little bit of prep talk. That's really important, just to put people at ease, especially if it's the first time that you are talking to each other. Most of the time we're talking about parties.
Okay, a good one to remember. There are always plenty of those that shows. So.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So that's a good way to start talking about the project. That's something that I personally do, and Laurent, my colleague, is doing that a lot. But we don't disguise ourselves. So the idea is to be yourself, and you don't want to wear a suit if it doesn't fit your personality. But on the other side, if you want to wear a costume because it's part of your personality, do it, because you want to be memorable in a way. So that's very important. Well, I'm not saying it, but clean clothes and be washed. That seems like a. But sometimes
it's evident, but sometimes you notice that people forget.
Exactly, and especially it really happens at GDC, for instance. And I was told one time that you don't want to be the party guy. So, well, is someone probably very sympathetic, and you want to hang out with him, but you don't want to buy a project from him. So that's the thing.
You're there to do business.
Exactly. We want to be friendly, you want to smile, that makes sense, right? And if you have goodies, it's really important to hand them out. So don't forget them. They're not going to pick them up or whatever. Give them. And you need to put a little bit of emphasis on them. And if you want to make them look good, make them look good, not just the the A4 paper, whatever. That's not the goodie, actually.
No, that's not.
That's the thing. So actually things when good, you have some sort of follow-up meeting, and you want to follow up with the different publishers that you met, and so you are going to track that. So you contact people right after the show. That's very important to keep it as short as possible.
So they remember you.
Exactly. But in terms of the follow-up and the time for them to answer your email, make sure that you basically are not having a lot of expectations, because, for instance, at the Gamescom, 2 weeks after there is a PAX, another event, and most of the time the publishers are also attending that event, and they are not going to be able to read all those emails and stuff like that. It from their point of view, it will make your project and your person look like professional, but they might not answer it right away. So it's a fairly long process at that moment. So you don't have to. If it takes a month, 2 months, 3 months, it's normal. So don't expect. Panic. Don't panic. That's exactly that. If we were talking about NDAs, but that's kind of an interesting part. So NDAs are non-disclosure agreement that basically you want to maybe sign with the publisher, or the publisher asks you to sign before sending some more advanced documents. I'm saying that if you are just having a pitch, some gameplay gifs in a trailer, NDA is a little bit kind of cumbersome in a way. So it's going to delay a lot the first impression or the first evaluation pass that the publisher is going to do. Of course, whenever you go into the more advanced discussion and you need maybe to share a game design Bible or a game design Bible or visual arts, a lot of content about the game and behind the scenes kind of thing, then it's
sensitive information. So then you should try to go to an NDA.
Exactly, because it takes time. Everyone has its own, so it means that you need to go through it carefully, maybe change a couple of things. Then it's back and forth, and you lose a lot of time there. So if there is interest on the publisher side already, and they're saying, oh yeah, this project is interesting me, and I want to follow up on this, and maybe have the right money for it, then do that at that moment. Not before.
So
I don't know if I think there was a question about that.
Yes, exactly. We get that question sometimes. Should we ask for or maybe have an NDA before we start the meeting? No. Do it in an advanced stage when the info gets more sensitive.
For the 30 minutes, if you are trying to sign a paper with someone, it can be basically a no deal. They are going to go away, or they are going to say yes, but I don't have the signature power, because if it's, for example, business developer, they are not going to sign it, the CEO. So you're basically again wasting some time,
your 30 minutes.
No, your 30 minutes, and maybe it was a very interesting one. So I'm using a small CRM system. I'm using Trello, and I'm using Asana in order to track those leads. That's interesting in order to see when you contacted them, when you want to contact them back again, who you met, and things like that. And I'm already on the closing note, so that's cool. No, right?
Very cool, Bruno.
You said it, Natasha, you sell, they buy, and not the other way around. So be sure that you have more selling meetings than buying meetings. What I mean is that at those events, you get a lot of audio companies, localization companies, ad companies, user acquisition, a lot of exotic markets, publishers that are there just to sell you services. Unless you are really looking for that, try to be not rude, but politely decline, because obviously you're occupying slots that could be useful for the meetings. And if at some point one publisher is telling you that at 10:30 on Tuesday they have a free slot, and you have that kind of meeting, that's kind of a shame, right?
It is.
That's the thing. If you, like I said, if you do goodies, make them look good. That's very important. Having the, that kind of pen or paper with just a logo is not actually a very good goodie. No. Actually, you just need to make it some sort of standout, kind of unique in a way. This way you can be remembered in a way. And this is really for newcomers, because I get a lot of that kind of feedback. Is if during the show you end up having no meetings.
No meetings. What do you do?
What do you do? Because it happens, especially if you are just starting out. Maybe you just came late on the meet and match system, and everyone is booked. The idea is that you have. I was talking about the attitude, and you need to have that create the occasion attitude. In that case, you need to change a little bit the focus. Instead of standing at your desk during the Gamescom, you need to roam around, and you need to go to the different booths, scout for those publishers that you wanted to meet, and try to meet them. Go to their desk, ask for a meeting, ask to see if you can see at least anyone, even if it's the QA manager, you don't care. The idea is just to enter the place and just be able to pitch the game, and maybe if they are interested into the game, they will ask their business manager, whatever CEO, producer, to come to your
don't stand there and wait for someone to come.
It won't happen.
Be proactive.
Exactly. What you only get is those audio localization ads, whatever.
Interns.
Exactly.
People, but not your business talk.
Exactly. And last but not least, you can also do that at parties. At parties, it's also a good way to present your pitch and to meet some interesting people. For instance, I know that at the Gamescom or GDC, we're organizing kind of a very interesting parties with the different partners around it, and they are quite a couple of very important people there, publishers that are there, and they are accessible, and you can have some chat with them and present them your project.
That's the case. Don't forget your own Belgian game development community.
Exactly.
Most of the people have plenty of contacts and are willing to share. So even pitching to those guys can help you along.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think I forgot something about the BIP. Oh yeah, I didn't do that. Where is it? Well, I was talking also about the. I'm just closing on this. There is a lot of. I'm not calling them distribution. It's more distribution partners. Those are the companies that are coming from Korea, Japan, China. There will be a ton of them. They will have some sort of very interesting. They will be interesting to your game because they are looking to acquire content, so acquire game. Just make sure that whenever you are talking to those, I would say less known partners, that you have a very clear BPIP, so business potential integration pain.
Okay.
So the thing here is just to think about, are they providing any MG? So like I said, minimum guarantee in order for you to integrate their Chinese SDK that they are saying that it takes only 1 day to integrate, but in the end, it's basically taking 2 months because it's just new, and you are going to be maybe there will be 2 or 3 developers working on it. They are not going to spend a lot of time on the SDK. So you need to evaluate this properly, right? It could be really interesting opportunities, but you really need to understand how mature those markets and their business is. Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm going to dive into some questions that came here. What if a meeting didn't go well? What do you do? Do you try to turn it around? Do you call, or do you leave it and try next year?
Well, if it's, you have to understand why it didn't go well. So was it because your pitch was not good, and basically you haven't been able to convey what the game was about or the money, or if the game was not a fit? If the game was not a fit, don't try to push it, right? Leave it. That's it happens, right? At some point, it's because it's so exhausting that if after 15 minutes you see that there is no match, that you see that, for example, they are doing mobile games and you have a PC game, you know, it's kind of obvious here, but there can be a lot of different situations. Just try to see, I don't think there is something to do together. Maybe we could just close the meeting right now. That's actually not a problem for anyone.
Yeah. Some questions come in now. One of the questions was how to, what are the pros and cons of a publisher and how to decide if you go for it, and something linked to it. What are reasonable deal terms when partnering with publishers?
Well, that's
funding, marketing, all that kind of things. That's okay.
That's a whole presentation, to be honest.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you need a publisher if you don't feel that you are good at marketing. So if you have no contacts at Steam, GOG, Epic, whatever, and you don't want to do it, because obviously you can go the self-publishing road. In that case, you need to have at least one person dedicated to do that. So the kind of business development that is needed in order to generate revenues, and to also be prepared to handle the marketing aspects of your game. So it can be community building, PR, influencers management, and things like that. So either you can work with agencies who can do that. Publishers actually work with agencies as well. So that's actually something that you have to learn. But there's also all the back end, being able to create the product on Steam, for instance, or on consoles, get in touch with the different manufacturers. So the publisher basically helps with that, and there are varying in efforts and in quality in that kind of field. Some are very good in marketing but not that strong into business development. Others have a lot of business development but not that strong in marketing. So you have to understand.
It depends on what share you give away and take back. It depends on who you're talking to.
Exactly, and what you want to do, what you don't want to do. Maybe you just want to focus on the game development, and in that case you want to have a publisher that basically does 360. That's the thing. But some others are just helping you just getting on consoles, Some of them are just doing that, and that's cool, and that's fine. If you are just looking for that, maybe you are interested into doing the PC alone and you want to reach the console with others. In terms of deal, it depends really on if you are asking for money. If you are asking for money, there is definitely some sort of equity that comes into play, because it will be an advance. They need to recoup on that advance. All depends if you need the money or not. So if you are not looking for money and you have all the funding that you need to in order to finish the project, you are more looking for a distributor than a publisher, because the publisher is really about funding plus marketing. Distributor can do distribution and sometimes a bit of marketing.
So yeah, a lot of things to take into account. One other practical question. We talked about, hi Karel, talked about Meet to Match. Which other ones would we recommend to set up meetings?
So I know that the Gamescom one, I'm not using it. In the past 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was not even some sort of platform. So it was more like, you know, someone and you basically, or you go and use the general email in order to get in touch with the publishers, right? Now with the Meet to Match, you can get access to, I would say, small and mid-size publishers on Meet to Match, which is kind of okay. To be honest, I've gone through a lot of those, and it's kind of okay. Same for the GDC. The GDC one works quite well. And there is one that we were talking about, really about publisher developer kind of meetup. And there is the Game Connection. I don't know if it's familiar for those who are watching the webinar, but the Game Connection is really about that. So it's less broad than what you can find at the Gamescom or the GDC. And there they have a very strong Meet to Match platform there on the Game Connection side, and you can meet a lot of different publishers there. So on top of that, it's really about sending emails and just getting your own agenda and schedule.
Building your contact database, of course.
Your contact database. If you have worked with publisher in the past and they have said no, but for different reasons, you can get in touch with them again and see if they are at the Gamescom, if you can have a meeting with them as well. That's what I'm trying to do as much as possible. Unless we got very bad feedback about that publisher or whatever, but that's what we are trying to avoid.
All right. Well, I think that's it for today. Thanks a lot, Bruno,
Thank you,
for
Natasha.
all your sharing and expertise on that. Thanks, viewers, for being here. We have another date tomorrow for another webinar, which we'll be talking about press coverage. We'll be having a journalist talking about why and when he clicks on a press review. Another webinar on Friday on influencer marketing. So if you haven't signed up yet, please do so on flandersdc.be. Thanks.
Bye-bye.